Puzzle Piece is a matchmaking application that allows its users to get to know each other. Noah, that night, was waiting for a man she recognized from a dating app named Chad. Noah calls her best friend Millie, just to pass the time while she waits. After a few hours, Noah was seen having dinner together with Chad at a Chinese restaurant. The first time they met, Chad immediately commented on Noah's dress style, which seemed indifferent and did not pay attention to appearance. Noah tries to be nice even though the conversation between them seems awkward and unpleasant. Chad immediately ended his dinner and asked Noah to pay for all the menus. Chad also said that he would pack up all the leftover food to give to his sister. The man's scarf dipped into the noodle plate and immediately asked the restaurant waiter for soda water, because the waiter and shop owner had an oriental face. Chad spoke as if the woman didn't understand English. Arriving outside the restaurant, Noah mustered up the courage to tell the truth that she didn't feel right with Chad, not self-conscious. The man cursed and said that Noah was not the ideal woman for him. Noah walked towards the car park located behind the restaurant. He was scared because he felt someone was following him. It turned out that the person was just a father carrying his baby into the car. Noah recounts her first date experience with Chad when she met Millie at a boxing training studio. As a good friend, Millie always defends Noah and suggests the best for her beautiful friend. That evening, Noah received another message from a man on a dating app. At first the man was quite polite and got Noah's attention by sending him a photo of his pet dog. After being responded to by Noah, the man started to digress and asked for some nasty photos. To refresh her mind, Noah goes to the supermarket and buys vegetables that have run out in her fridge. As he was choosing fresh bok choy, a man's voice greeted him. The man named Steve wanted to buy a grape that tasted as sweet as cotton candy. He hands her a bag of wine and asks Noah to try it. Steve doesn't want to lose his chance and asks for Noah's cell number, feeling that there is an opportunity to make love. Noah also gives her cell phone number. The girl from Portland recounts her meeting with Steve to Millie. Noah is still curious why Steve hasn't contacted her yet. Millie advises Noah not to get carried away and not to join boys' games. Millie asks Noah to just be yourself. After a few days, Noah got a message from Steve, who immediately asked her to meet. They spend the night at the bar owned by Paul, Millie's close friend and former lover. They exchange information related to each other's background. Steve claims to work as a doctor in the field of reconstructive surgery. The man from Texas often performs plastic surgery and helps patients find confidence. The conversation that night seemed so much fun that it made Noah lulled by the man's sweet demeanor. Noah ordered a drink with lots of cherries, showing how much the girl loves cherries. They spend time together until the bar closes and moves to Noah's house. As usual in America, the meeting of two people who are compatible with each other will end in bed. In the morning, Noah took a picture of Steve's face, who was still asleep in his sleep. After Steve left, Noah immediately called Millie and told him at length about his girlfriend. Millie is very curious about the figure of a man who is close to her best friend. He asked for Steve's social media account, but unfortunately the man didn't use social media. Millie immediately says that this is a red flag and a bit fishy. Noah, who is in love, refuses to listen to Millie's advice and stays in a relationship with Steve. They see each other more often until Steve sleeps over at Noah's house. Steve invites Noah to go out of town while enjoying the new atmosphere together. Noah couldn't refuse the invitation because girls love surprises. They dance together while talking about dreams for the future. In the morning, Noah talks to Millie again while packing her clothes to go out of town with Steve on Saturday and Sunday. Millie is very shocked at the news and asks Noah to show her a picture of Steve's face. Noah promises Millie to keep her posted when she reaches her destination. After a few hours, Steve came to pick up and take Noah to the middle of nowhere. They entered the forest to go to that faraway place. Steve explains that he was originally going to take Noah to Cottage Grove, Oregon, but before going to that place, Steve invited his girlfriend to stop by his house and rest overnight. Noah immediately messages Millie that she is on her way to Cottage Grove. Unfortunately, in the middle of the forest, the signal is very difficult and messages cannot be sent. Steve promised that he would find a more stable network at his house. Their journey took hours until evening came. Steve immediately took Noah into his house while Noah was a little disappointed because he didn't find any photos of Steve's family there. Noah still can't get a signal on her phone and asks Steve to give her the Wi-Fi password. Instead of answering Noah's questions, Steve was busy concocting his favorite cocktail. Noah is stunned to see the wall hanging in the living room and is surprised by Steve handing her a drink. Noah tried to guess what concoction was mixed into his drink. After several wrong guesses, Noah manages to guess correctly if the cocktail is laced with nectarine. Nectarines are peach twin brothers with a similar shape and taste. However, nectarines contain higher polyphenol antioxidant compounds than peaches. Noah's vision began to blur more and more and he felt very sleepy. Steve still kept talking so that Noah would stay calm in his unconscious state. As the girl loses consciousness, the movie begins. After waking up from being unconscious for so long, Noah was already in an empty room where Steve sat in the corner of the room looking at Noah. Steve greeted the girl who had just woken up and said that he had drugged Noah on purpose. Seeing her hands and chains, Noah immediately panicked and wondered what was really going on. The girl cried while begging Steve to let her go. Unfortunately, the psycho doctor doesn't want to let Noah go that easily. Steve walked closer to Noah until the girl was scared half to death. As Noah continued to cry, Steve snapped at the woman to listen to her words. Steve claims to be a doctor who works on the side as a meat seller. He will sell Noah's meat, hair, and other strange things to those who are interested in human raw materials. He promises not to kill Noah directly because fresh meat has a high selling price. The fresher the meat, the more enthusiasts who are willing to buy at high prices. Steve threatens Noah. If the woman tries to run away, then Steve will not hesitate to kill her. Immediately, Noah ran to attack Steve, but her body was too weak to fight alone. What's more, Noah's hands are chained using iron and padlocks, making her movements very limited. At the same time, Millie starts to worry about Noah's condition. After boxing practice, Millie sends a voice message asking how her best friend is doing and whereabouts. Shortly thereafter, Millie gets a reply from Noah's cell number saying that she is in Cottage Grove and the network is bad. Steve's control of Noah's cell phone sends pictures of the waterfall and tries to convince Millie that Noah is okay. Meanwhile, Noah screams for help from inside her prison room. From the next room a woman's voice was heard responding to Noah's screams. It turns out that a woman named Penny was also kidnapped by Steve to sell her meat to elite-class cannibals. Penny admitted that she did not know how long she had been held captive, because there was no wall clock in her room. Noah said that the Penny family must be looking for him. Penny said that she didn't have many relatives and neither did Noah. It seems that Steve likes to kidnap girls who don't have many close relatives to make it easier to carry out executions. Penny said that next to her room there was another victim named Melissa. Noah could only lower her head while crying uncontrollably. At the same time, Millie starts to get suspicious of Noah's boyfriend and looks for him on the internet. Unfortunately, Millie doesn't have an accurate lead regarding Noah's lover. He searches for the location of the waterfall photo sent from Noah's cell phone. As it turns out, the photo was taken from the website and not the one taken by Noah's own camera. Millie grows suspicious and texts Noah to send her more photos. Replies from Noah are still about signal difficulties and network limitations. Noah sends love messages as usual but is answered unusually by Noah. He began to realize something was wrong and sent a message for the number to call him immediately. Meanwhile, Steve is happy, because he got a new prey with high selling value. While listening to songs and dancing, he takes stock of large thighs and slices them into small pieces to be deposited with the customer. Steve wrapped the best part of the meat in plastic and sealed it tightly. Apparently, not only one person ordered illicit goods from him. Instead, some of the elite began to be interested in food that could not be reached by ordinary people. After the delivery man came to take the order, Steve made some food for Noah. The girl refused to eat and said she was going to take a bath. Steve forces Noah to smile if she really wants to take a shower. After seeing Noah's smile, Steve removed the chains that tied Noah's body to the floor and dragged his hands, which were still handcuffed with strong rubber restraints. They walked up the stairs to go to the bathroom. Only then did Noah realize that the lockup room was in the basement. Noah looked for an opportunity to attack until she saw bloodstains on the wall of the house and immediately fought back. Steve easily hit Noah's head against a wooden wall until the woman was unconscious. When she woke up, Noah was already in the operating room where her buttocks were cut off as punishment. Steve did all his operations neatly without a trace. He even used complete surgical instruments in his own home to carry out this illegal and forbidden practice. At the same time, Millie meets Paul to find out the identity of Noah's real lover. He begs Paul to find data on the credit card that Steve used when paying for drinks on his first date with Noah. After persuading his ex with deadly seductions, Paul finally wants to help. Noah now has to crawl to move after a painful operation. Noah returned to talking with Penny, the victim, in the next room. Penny is surprised to hear that Noah had slept with Steve because she didn't do that. The next day, while Millie is busy working at the office, she gets a message from Paul stating Steve's full name from his credit card, namely Brendan Steve Kemp. Millie quickly finds out about Steve's family late into the night. After diving in cyberspace for hours, Millie can only find the Facebook account of a woman who is suspected to be Steve's wife, named Anne. In her Facebook post, Millie finds a photo of Steve with his wife and 2 sons in front of their house. Millie manages to pocket Steve's family home address and plans to visit the house. Elsewhere, Noah is still struggling with post-operative pain. Blood was still visible from the wound from the operation this afternoon. At that time, Steve brought a girl who was suspected to be Penny. The next day, as dusk approaches, Millie is near Ann Kemp's residence. The beautiful woman immediately contacted Paul saying that she had found Steve's house, which had a complete family, wife and children. That afternoon, Noah gets magazines for entertainment in her narrow room. Steve also gave cherries to the girl he adored so that Noah would not be stressed because the quality of the meat would deteriorate. At that time, Steve looked exhausted from continuous operations, so he didn't have enough time to sleep and rest. Noah questions Steve why he slept with her when in the end he was only made into easy prisoner to be sold. Steve admits that he really likes Noah. Steve stepped away, leaving Noah, who was still sobbing. Noah opened page after page of the magazine and found the writing of a woman named Sami Akbari. The girl gave a message to whoever Steve gave the magazine to. He emphasized that the woman who was given the same magazine as herself was the woman Steve liked. He asked anyone who read his writings to keep fighting and stay strong to face everything. Noah screamed loudly for Penny, who had given up on the situation that night. Penny was almost dying and was just waiting for her death to arrive. Noah tried to encourage Penny, but the woman instead prayed that Steve would choke on the worm that was eating away at Steve's body from the inside. Later that night, Paul gets an updated location message from Millie. The woman said Paul could come to the location if he couldn't be reached in the next few days. Millie visits Anne's house and immediately tells her the truth. Millie tells that Anne's husband is dating Noah and even shows a photo of Steve sleeping at Noah's house, and admits that she doesn't know anything about it, let alone Noah's whereabouts. Shortly thereafter, Steve came home and kissed his beloved wife, Anne. Steve admits that he does not know Noah and has never had contact with her. Millie, who is very smart, cannot be fooled that easily. Millie walks out of the house while dialing Noah's cell phone. As it turned out, the ringing phone had reached Steve's jacket, unfortunately, and helped her husband's work and hit Millie's head until he fainted. At night, Paul sends messages to Millie but they are not sent. At that time, Steve had taken Millie's body to a detention house which was located far from the hustle and bustle of the city. At the same time, Noah is working on her physique by doing push-ups, ready to take the fight at the right time. Steve went into Noah's room to give her a change of clothes. Meanwhile, Paul checks Millie's whereabouts which are already near the hills of Mason Hill Park. That night, Anne looks awkward with her own husband in the bathroom. Steve thanks Anne for helping to paralyze Millie, and hurriedly took a shower and took off her clothes until it was revealed that the woman's leg had been stumped. Apparently, Anne is a former prisoner of Steve who was held captive and sold his meat. In the morning, Steve went about his usual activities at the meat storage and confinement house. The Mad Doctor cooks up some delicious treats to serve Noah that evening. Noah asked if the meat was hers. Steve said that the meat belonged to someone named Hope. They enjoyed the meal that night while Noah pretended to enjoy it. Seeing that Noah is getting more and more submissive to him, Steve is gentle toward his favorite woman. After eating together, Steve escorted Noah back to his room and said good night. Steve immediately visits Millie's room and takes her to the operating room. While Noah was busy regurgitating food from the serving meat for the cannibals, the following night, Paul shuts down the bar where he works to catch up with Millie. Unfortunately, the shared location is no longer reachable. Luckily, a few days earlier Paul had taken a screenshot of Millie's last location. When Millie has her abdominal surgery and her internal organs removed, Noah talks with Penny about their respective conditions. Noah started to think if only she could see Penny and hug her. It turned out that the girl had no left hand and left leg because Steve had amputated them. The next day, Steve burst into Noah's room and gave her a special present. Noah opens a black gift box that contains a peach-colored dress. Steve again invites Noah to have dinner together to enjoy a dish of meat from the human body. Steve seemed enthusiastic about Noah's reaction, who didn't refuse and seemed to enjoy it just as much as he did. Steve gives Noah powder and lipstick to dress up tonight. At exactly 7 p.m., Anne sent a message to Steve asking what time her husband was coming home. Steve ignores messages from Anne as he wants to have a romantic dinner with Noah. Steve hid his cell phone in a secret box and rushed to meet the beautiful Noah. Noah practices smiling in the mirror until Steve visits her room. They walk to a romantic dining table with candles on it. Because it had been a long time since he had drunk alcohol, Noah immediately downed the drink that was served in one gulp. It seemed that the girl was planning on drinking herself drunk. They quickly ate and Steve said that the dish was made from Millie's meat. Noah seemed reluctant to eat it. However, she still tried her best to hide her true feelings. Steve increasingly likes Noah, who is willing to accept cannibalism and can become a member of it. He begins to trust Noah and shows him a secret shelf hidden behind a painting in his living room. Inside that shelf were stored items from all the victims that Steve managed to kidnap and capture. Complete with photos of the victims, Steve did not forget to include the names of each box on the shelf. The personal belongings of Sami Akbari, Melissa, and even Penny are also on the shelf. Meanwhile, Noah's personal belongings are stored in Steve's private room. Noah pays attention to the bottom of the shelf, which contains piles of the victims' cell phones. Noah notices Millie's cell phone there. Noah's mind is getting more and more chaotic, so she often daydreams when spoken to. Steve serves a woman's breast meat as the closing of his romantic dinner. Imagining how sadistic Steve's actions were, Noah burst into tears. He had never thought that such a cruel human would torture a woman, even though Steve was born from a woman's womb. At first, Noah could still laugh and chat together, but his conscience could not tell a lie. Noah cried uncontrollably in front of Steve until the man felt pity and hugged Noah. They continued the romantic party that night in bed. After going to the bathroom to throw up her food, Noah immediately gave Steve her best service. He deliberately made Steve fall asleep with true pleasure. The male reproductive organs were eaten raw until Noah's beautiful dress turned red. Noah also pokes Steve in the eye with toothpaste and runs out of the room. He managed to take the key that was placed on the table and managed to open the rubber handcuffs in his hand. Noah ran down to the basement and saved another woman who was being held there. Together with Millie and Penny, they climbed back up and put up a fight. The fierce battle between 3 women and 1 man was fierce and annoying. Several times they managed to make Steve faint but did not want to kill him. Steve got back up and attacked the 3 women, until the brave Millie kicks Steve's head so that it hits the table and returns to unconsciousness. Noah took her friends' cell phones and took Penny out of the house. At the same time, Paul arrived in front of Steve's house, but he didn't dare to go inside. Steve came back to his senses and shouted loudly, calling Noah's name. He also fired a gun to make Paul scared and leave the house without any help. Noah splits up with Millie and Penny while continuing to zigzag, trying to get out of the wilderness. When they were playing hide and seek in the woods, Anne, Steve's wife, followed her to the detention house because her husband never came home. The condition of the house was very messy and lots of blood splattered on the floor. Anne immediately combed the house and found out what happened. Millie again attacks Steve, who staggers, pointing his gun. After they manage to incapacitate Steve, Noah grabs the gun and shoots Steve dead in the head. The 3 of them walked back to the end of the forest, which turned out to be tightly closed with a high fence and an iron padlock. Noah looks for her cell phone, which turns out to have been dropped near Steve's body. At the same time, Anne entered the forest and found her husband's lifeless body. He ordered his subordinates to clean up Steve's body so as not to be suspected. Not long after, Noah was seen walking to the place where Steve's body was found and looking for the whereabouts of his cell phone under the dry leaves. After finding the cell phone, Anne suddenly approached Noah as if they were on the same side. Unfortunately, Anne immediately attacked Noah and choked the girl's neck until she almost ran out of breath. Noah only has time to scream once and Millie suspects something is going on. Noah stabbed Anne in the neck using the house key, but the wound was unable to kill the vile woman. Anne got up again and pushed Noah into a tree. Until then, Millie came with a hoe and finished off Anne's head until nothing was left of it. After killing his enemy, Millie sits beside Noah explaining that Steve was actually married and had children. The 2 true friends laughed together as if nothing bad had happened before. Noah's cell phone rings, which turn out to be a message from Chad, a man from a dating app who asks to pay for food, and the film ends. This film, directed by Mimi Cave, reveals social problems that often occur, especially in dating applications. Cave also did research on modern dating and their hot topic issues until he found his determination to make an energetic yet gripping film. He succeeded in portraying the character of Steve, who is a maniac psychopath who wants to do crazy things for money. Although in the end, Steve did not deny that he enjoyed his illegal work. Fresh depicts the horrors of modern dating seen through a young woman's defiant struggle to survive her new boyfriend's unusual tastes. Noah in this film is described as not strong enough to fight Steve's athletic body. Luckily Noah has a loyal friend, Millie, who gave up her life just to find Noah's whereabouts. From this film, it should be remembered that as a woman it is important to learn martial arts. and having good friends is important to make life easier in the future. Thank you and goodbye.